Good morning, I'm Juanita and welcome back to the Knit Guru, and it's that time of year again, Valentine's Day. Now, I like any excuse for a nice heart motif, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my Valentine's list down the bottom of all my patterns and all of everything else that you can do this Valentine's Day if you so desire. Also, I have two new Valentine's patterns releasing this year. The first one is over here because it's too hot. This looks like a storm. It's humidity to put it on right now. So it's a chunky knit heart beanie. It's based around the concept of my 1 hour beanie, which was very popular online. So it does not take long to knit because it is super chunky. Like this one is even faster, I would say, than the 1 hour beanie. Is it? It's very similar because there's colour work in this one, whereas the 1 hour beanie doesn't really have any colour work. This one's on 15mm needles. So there's this heart beanie. Must remember to actually put that picture in there. And then what we're going to do in this video is we are going to make this cutie, this little hanging heart motif that you can fill with lavender or some sort of scent if you want to. Last year my Auntie Jo made a whole stack of felt hearts and embroidered on them and put love from Auntie Jo, Valentines 2024 on them all, and I thought it was very cute. So this year I will be sending her back a set that are knitted, because that's what I do. She's a quilt artist and I knit. So we're going to go through the instructions now to make this cute little heart dangler. Right, now you're going to have to, I'm going to have to beg your indulgence with the voiceover for this video, as well as the filming of this video. Remember, at the time of making this, I have a massive tendon injury in my wrist and thumb on my right hand, so it's a bit painful. But what you're going to need is a set of needles and some yarn. I'm using 3.5mm needles and DK weight yarn. It doesn't really matter what you are using as long as they sort of match up. You don't want your needle to be bigger because then you're going to get holes. You don't want your yarn to be bigger, it's just going to be too tight. This is quite tight because I've gone down a size from the DK recommended yarn size. Anyway, we're going to start off at the top of the heart and we're going to cast on 3 stitches. Now the full written pattern is going to be linked down below, so don't feel like you've got to sit there and take notes. The pattern's available for free on my website. And the video is just meant to help you out, but whether it helps is another story, looking at how bad my footage really is. Anyway, first row, we're going to knit into the front and back of that first stitch. That gives us an increase of 1. We're going to knit into the front and back of the second stitch as well, and then we're just going to knit the last stitch. That's going to take our row of 3 stitches up to 5 stitches by the end of row 1. This is the most difficult row, I think, to knit, because you're trying to increase such a lot in such a small space. As you can see, I'm doing a terrible job at trying to get everything on camera. Yes, but what you get is just a slight little curve there at the bottom. I'm going to turn this around, and now we're just going to purl across those 5 stitches. This one shouldn't be too difficult at all, so just purling every stitch. Now, I've been making these hearts for many years in various different sizes. They're quite fun to make as conversation hearts, and they're quite fun to make with just a little safety pin stitched on the back as a brooch and giving out for Valentine's Day. I've done that for all my friends sometimes. Right, so here we've got 5 stitches on our needle. What we're now going to do is we're going to knit one, and then we're going to make one in those spaces in between. So here we go. We're going to knit the first stitch on this row, and then we're going to knit the second stitch and go in the front and the back. Now you can choose to do a make one in that spot instead of just doing a knit one front and back, but I've gone knit one front and back. Then the second to last stitch on the row, knit one front and back, and then the last stitch we're just going to knit. That's now taken our 5 stitches up to 7 stitches, and we're now just going to purl right across this row. As you can see, we're starting to get a curve forming at the top, well, the bottom, or the cast on edge side is curved at this point. These don't take too long to knit at all. All right, here we go. So there's our first little bit done. Now this is the last increasing row that we're going to do. Same thing as before. We're going to knit the first one, and then the second stitch we're going to knit into the front and back, and then the second to last stitch we're going to do the same thing. That just keeps our increases nice and neat. Right, so we go front and back of that second stitch. This is going to take our stitch count up to 9 for the end of this row. So we're up to 4, 5, 6, 7, and we're going to knit front and back of that one. That gives us 8 and 9. Yeah, so there we go. We've got a little curve going on, and we're going to purl across here. Now we are going to need 4 of these, because the whole heart is knit flat, and then we fold it in half and just seam it up one side. It's not difficult, but it will be an interesting process if you've never done this before. So here we go, purling right across our 9 stitches. You can see how stiff my right thumb really is feeling. It's been the absolute worst. At this point, it's been, when did I do this? September, October, November, December, January. The time of filming this is 4 months of this injury. So we're going to need 4 of these. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut the yarn. Yeah, and then we're going to jump to another video, and we're going to make 4 of these. So we're going to put 4 of them all on the same needle. You may notice these are a different color needle. It's still the same size, it's still a 3.5, but we've now got 4 of them going on there. So what we're going to do here is, when we get across to the end of our first 9 stitches, what we're going to do, we're just going to wait to get there. There we go. So when we get to these two here, this is optional and it's a little bit tricky. You can just knit straight across, or you can do what I'm doing here, where you knit the 2 stitches, the first and the last of each hump, together through the front and the back. And this is tricky, and as you can see, it's very tight, and my thumb hurts, and I've missed, and yeah. So you can just choose to knit straight across. I do the knit front and back because it just makes it a little bit stronger. It's a lot easier when you're not suffering with a hand injury and using sliding needles and acrylic yarn. Have we got it? There we've got it. Yes. So that just makes it a little bit more secure in that point. But we're making a heart. We're not making a jumper. We're not making something that matters too much. It's not really going to get a lot of strain. So just knit straight across this row. But the advantage of knitting 2 together in the front and back just reinforces that join. I do it a lot when doing amigurumi projects where you're trying to connect the 2 legs on a plushie while you're knitting them together. So here we go, we're at the end of the hump, we're knitting the first and the last stitch together, and then we're knitting them together through the back loop. And I'll probably have a struggle with that again. Oh, that makes it look like I know what I'm doing, which is a small miracle. And then we're going to keep going. This is just going to get us across to the end. Once we get to the end of this row, things are really easy. So we're still knitting across to the end of hump 3. We're going to slide hump 4 up, and now we're going to knit front and back of these 2 stitches together. It's a complicated kind of way of saying, yeah, we're just joining them. But you don't have to do it this way. You can just knit straight across the row. Because as you can see, if you're new to knitting, this is not that easy. If you've got an injury, this is not that easy. If you've got, slippery yarn and slippery needles, it's awful as well. So, here we go. We're now going to just tug on those yarn tails just to tighten things up. And we're going to knit to the end of the row. Yeah, there we are. Woohoo! So we've got 4 little loops sitting on our needles here. So what we're going to do at this point is we're going to do some rows of stockinette stitch. We're going to do 6 rows total. That first row counts, so we're going to do 5 more rows. I'm going to do them at hyperspeed because I'm cool. Yeah, there we go. So now what we've got is we've got 4 humps at the bottom, and we've got this long run of stitches. What you are going to do at this point is go to the middle point, which is 18 stitches across, and you're just going to pop a little marker in there. I'm going to flick my marker straight off because I chose the wrong kind of marker. Now we're just going to slide this one in here. So that's just marking our halfway point. That means that I don't have to do complicated mathematics. So what we're now going to do is we're going to knit the first stitch of the row, and we're going to knit the second stitch, and the second stitch and the third stitch, we're going to join them together. So we're bringing in for the point. So there we go. We're going to go to the second and the third stitch. We're doing a slip, slip, knit. So you can just do a knit two together if you like, or you can do a slip one, knit one, pass, slip, stitch over. Oh, I'm going to miss that. Oh, dreadful, honestly. Oh, and again, you'd think that I've never done any knitting before in my entire life. And you see, just constantly missing. That thumb is so sore. Here we go. Anyway, we've got them together. We've reduced our stitch count by 1. We're now going to knit until 3 stitches before the marker. And it's always going to be the same. It's always going to be the second and third stitch and going to 3 stitches before the marker. It's not going to get more complicated than that. So we're going to keep going across here. Dun, 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 dun. The dog does think I've lost the plot. Right, so now that we are 3 stitches from the marker, we're going to knit 2 together. And we're going to just do this really badly in the video. Honestly, what was I thinking? To be fair, it's the best I could do. This injury is just hanging around like there's no tomorrow. Now we're going to knit this stitch right before the marker. We're going to slip our marker across. Now we're going to knit 1. That's our fold point is the marker. And now we're going to slip, slip, knit. So slip 2 stitches, put the needle in the other side and knit them. You can do it just knit 2 together through the back loops. That also works. But whatever floats your boat, really. We're just trying to bring those stitches in on that side. Now we're going to knit to the last 3 stitches on the row. When we get to the last 3 stitches, we're going to knit 2 together and then knit the last stitch. What that's going to do is it's going to start bringing in our heart to the point with a fold line down the centre. So when we're folding it in half, we end up with 2 little bumps at the top of the heart on the front and 2 little bumps of the top of the heart on the back. Yeah, I don't even know if I'm talking bollocks anymore or if I'm making any sense. Anyway, so we're going to knit these second to last 2 stitches together, and then we're going to knit the last one. Here we go. So you'll see it's starting to come in just a little bit. We purl all the purl rows, so we're now just going to turn and purl. And then we're going to do the same thing, bringing the together. We're going to bring it together and make it smaller on the knit rows. So we've completed the purl row and we've completed a few more knit rows. So you start seeing the shaping coming in. So it's always knit 1, slip, slip, knit, knit to 3 before the marker, knit 2 together, knit 1, move marker, knit 1, slip, slip, knit, knit to 3 before the end, knit 2 together. Yeah, we're just going to keep going down in this pattern until we've got 4 stitches left on the needle. When we've got these 4 stitches left on the needle, we're literally just going to cut the yarn and thread it through those 4 stitches. Again, all the instructions are on my website written down below. Then we're going to fold it in half. And if you fold it in half, it will roll a bit because it's, stockinette stitch. But you can see the heart shape forming there. And we're going to sew around the edges and up the side so that we've got just a hole left at one of our bubbly points, for lack of a better description. And we're going to stuff it. Again, you can stuff it with whatever you like. I have stuffed them with lavender and put them in drawers, to make your drawers smell nice. What's the name for that? There's a special name for one of those. I can't remember what it is. My brain's not working. But we're just stuffing these. And then we're just going to seam up this top circle bit here. Once it's completely stuffed, you can either embroider some words on it, or you can make a single heart, which is the same as the process before, except way easier, because we're just doing two curvy bits and then the shaping down. And we're going to take that heart and we're going to stitch it onto the other one. Now this second heart is smaller. It only goes up to 7 stitches across on the little circular humps, and then everything else just pulls in nicely. So we're going to stitch 1 on each side. Once we've stitched 1 on each side, what you can do is then just do some embroidery. I've got some flowers there that just look cute. I will catch you next week.